You're listening to episode 20 of the Ento Podcast.
Looking to stay up to date on all things entomorphagy? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Ento Podcast with your host, Ross Bell.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to episode 20 of the Ento Podcast with me, your host, Ross Bell. So it's going to be a quick show this week. I could only find two stories, sort of covering things that we hadn't covered on sort of the last couple of episodes. So it's a bit of a shout out to the listeners out there. If you've got an event coming up and you'd like to advertise it, get people going on, if you know of a news story or you got a Kickstarter going and you want to try and get a bit more advertising out, drop me a line at info@theentopodcast.co.uk. Let me know what it is, I'll have a look and we'll put it onto one of the episodes. Try and give me a bit of time, so if you've got something on at the weekend, don't tell me the day before. Try and sort of give me a week or two so we can get it included in the show and get it listed on the website and try and push some sort of more people to your event or to your offering. So the two stories we've got today are Melbourne Biotech Company breeds flies to tackle world's waste problem. Edible insects can help solve hunger and improves nutrition in Sumatra. So before we get started, let's just hear a word from our sponsor today, Cricket. Cricket, for all your dried, flavoured and cricket protein products. Find us at www.cricket.co.uk.
Back to the show, the Ento Podcast with your host, Ross Bell, online at theentopodcast.com.uk.
Welcome back. So the first story we'll cover today comes from abc.net.au. It's Melbourne Biotech Company breeds flies to tackle world's waste problem. A Melbourne Biotech Company is using its software development skills to breed black soldier fly, whose larvae turn organic waste into animal feed. Inside a shipping container, in a warehouse in inner city Melbourne, a robust colony of the flies is being bred to create a sustainable agricultural feed product. The larvae produced by the flies convert food scraps into protein source. What we're trying to do here is really harness natural processes, turn them into something that's more efficient than nature, and do something really good for society and agricultural industries, Comma 3 Chief Scientific Officer Martin Pike said. While the fly only lives for about a week, during that time the efficient breeders lay between 100 and 500 eggs. As soon as the eggs hatch, they begin breaking down organic matter into a protein-based substance used to feed animals. With a current nutritional content of 60 to 65% protein, with the remainder mixture carbohydrates and fats, Mr. Pike said that they make an ideal substitute for soybean meal currently used in many animal feeds. It's not just the high protein content that makes the products desirable. The company claims the added advantage of black soldier fly is its largely disease-free characteristics that dramatically reduce contamination levels in feedstock. They don't use food at all, so they're not a vector for disease, Mr. Pike said. This characteristic is further exhibited in the larvae, whose gut bacteria Mr. Pike likens to a probiotic, making them a clean source of nutrients. While Mr. Pike and company chief executive James Sackle concede that there is nothing new about the use of black soldier fly in organic waste recycling to create animal feed, the entrepreneurs with a background in software development said they were applying their skills to create an optimized system for rearing insects. Along with the automated system and the use of 3D printing design prototyping, the company has also experimented with food ingredients. We've begun adding waste spirits into our feed blend because we found that as the colonies metabolized the alcohol, their protein absorption increased by over 10%. While the company has only been around for 12 months, the pair is ambitious in their plans. We're sort of single-mindedly focused on creating basically the world's largest fly farms, or rather insect farms, so not only flies we're hoping to work with in the future. Basically, we see them as a sustainable way for the future. And while the entrepreneurs are currently operating out of a small warehouse in Cremorne, they plan to move to a larger undercover facility near Geelong. We've got tremendous support from the council to do so. along with support from the local waste companies. They currently source their waste from local businesses, which they offer a free collection service and hope to expand their waste collection. What we're hoping to do is get a really mixed waste stream so we can experiment with different sorts of streams, Mr. Sackle said. So we're talking to supermarkets, hospitals, schools, food manufacturers, farms and agricultural businesses, anywhere that produces a sort of pre- or post-consumer food waste. The company hopes to recycle about 500,000 tonnes of waste a month, even though Mr. Pike could envision people one day eating the protein source produced by the fly larvae. He said public perception would make it difficult. We're hoping to change that we can basically show people that it isn't just a novelty. It's not something that's gross or disgusting, he said. But in the meantime, the company is focused on commercial negotiations with animal feed producers. So similar to the story that we heard last week where the EU had gone ahead and said that black soldier fly was fine for aquaculture. The Australians are also looking into the black soldier fly and trying to get it into their feed stream as well. So the last story we've got today comes from the Food Navigator Asia, and it's edible insects can help solve hunger and improve nutrition in Sumatra. It's by Gary Scattergood. Edible insects from Sumatra can provide a strategic solution for hunger problems and subsequent undernourishment due to their high essential fatty contents, researchers have concluded. Academics say inhabitants of the Indonesian island are faced with insufficient food supplies, and that edible insects as a traditional and readily available food source could be part of the solution. Throughout Indonesia, 20 million people suffer from undernourishment, which is approximately 8% of the Indonesian population. 1 in every 5 children suffers from malnutrition, and 1 in every 3 suffer from stunting. However, edible insects bred in Sumatra for human consumption have never before been assessed with regard to their nutritional value. The study analysed the crude protein, chitin, fat, and selected fatty acids contents of giant mealworm larvae of the common mealworm, and nymphs of field crickets. Crude protein content in the samples ranged from 46 to 56%, the highest being 35% and the lowest being 31%. Of fat were recorded in giant mealworm larvae and larvae of the common mealworm respectively, whereas the chitin amounts ranged from 6 to 13%. In terms of essential fatty acids, oleic acid was found to be predominant in the oil of giant mealworm larvae, common mealworm larvae, and pupae, while linoleic acid was the most abundant in the oil of field cricket nymphs. For chitin content, there was a statistically significant and higher difference between the common mealworm and other species, and chitin is considered an indigestible fibre that provides considerable protective effects on human health. So it's a bit of a different angle at looking at the use of insects as food, where it can help small islands that don't have the space to raise their own cattle and don't have the means to do so. But that's the last story I've got found for this week. So again, if you know of any stories or you've got anything coming up and you'd like to get it on the show, just drop me a line and till next week. This is Russ saying, ta-ra for now.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ento Podcast. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit theentopodcast.co.uk and on Facebook and Twitter at the Ento Podcast. We'll catch you next time.